welcome back to another Nights with Ebon Pinion. Tonight, I have a very special guest, Katherine Silva. She's here to talk about her work, her upcoming book, and all things horror and spooky. So, Katherine, it's so exciting to have you here.
Thank you. I am very excited to be here.
When you responded to my call on Twitter, I've been following you for a while, and I've read your work, and I just think you're so interesting. And so I was like,
Oh,
oh, score.
thanks.
So, for anyone who might not be familiar with you, tell us a little bit about your stuff, yourself, your books, and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Katherine Silva, Kat for short. I like to write existential grief horror. That's kind of my wheelhouse. Lately, the stuff I've been writing has all been within the same series. It's called the Wild Oblivion series. It is about a purgatory forest that is taking over the world, and in that forest, there's also ghosts that come back to haunt the living, and what happens to all of the various characters within this world when that event happens. So there are currently four uh, different stories in that universe that are out right now. And the fifth is coming out in August. There's two main books and then three kind of like little stories that you can read. The Wild Dark is book one in the series, and the Wild Fall will be the follow up to that, and that's what's coming out in August.
That is super exciting. I love your descriptor for that. How did you start writing that kind of genre?
So I think I've always really liked writing grief horror. I don't really know why. I don't know. There's something about like the sad stuff that really just gets me. And I just like writing it. And like watching it too. It's one of my favorite things to watch or play, or even my music is all sad. But this concept kind of came with playing a few games, honestly. I think there is a very little known indie game called Limbo that came out probably 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago at this point. But it's all about this little boy that wakes up in these black and white woods, and you are playing as him, going through this very stark environment. And you don't have any backstory. There's no dialogue. It's just really minimalist. And I loved that. I really wanted to dive into what the backstory was. What is this entire universe? And then it kind of, in wondering about those things, I kind of created my own, with the idea that this is something that is, maybe he's not waking up there. Maybe this is a thing that is, taking over the world as we know it. And then the thing grew from there. So yeah, that's where it started.
I really, really like this whole concept of this growing forest that's just overtaking everything. I feel like that is a really powerful metaphor for grief. It's
Yeah.
such a constant companion, I think, and it sneaks up on you sometimes before you even realize it. So that's a that is just a really cool concept to me. And to incorporate that into horror is just really exciting.
Well,
Um,
thank
yeah, I'm very excited about your newest edition that's coming out. And what is the date for that release?
It's coming out August 3rd.
So it's almost here.
It's almost here.
Do you
Yeah.
have any pre-publishing jitters?
Oh, totally. Every time a book comes out, I get like the crazy anxiety. And this month I have just been a total nervous wreck. Like, and usually I'm okay with managing it, but this month in particular, I have been super squirrely, just like kind of all over the place. And once the book is here, I will be better.
Yeah.
uh, but the pre, like, how many sales have I made, like, is this, when is this podcast happening, when am I gonna need to be here for, oh, this is changing, I need to switch this around, like all of that stuff just has me like zinging all over the place.
Yeah.
And so yeah, once it's here, I will definitely move down like
Yeah. To be able to just chill the beans for a
notches.
while.
Yeah.
I definitely understand that. I always get the book anxiety pre-release. And then like it gets really bad for me the week beforehand. I'm just anticipating all of the things that could possibly go wrong, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I do that too. I know how that feels.
So here you are, just about to have your newest book released. Would you like to talk about your journey in publishing and your kind of how that has worked out for you as an independent author?
Sure. Um, so I self-published my first book back in 2010 when self-publishing was still a really new concept. And it's because I had an idea that I was really passionate about, that I did not think was going to be picked up by a major publisher. Um, and at the time, there was this whole like, well, you get to control your characters, you get to keep control of your world and your all the different facets of the thing that you wrote, and your royalties as well. Like you are in total control, and I liked that idea. And I also really wanted to learn a lot about the self-publishing journey myself. So there was a company who was still fairly new who was helping authors start out self-publishing their books. They're local to me. Really nice company. And we published the first book together. Um, and it's kind of a cooperative. So there were a bunch of other authors I got to meet, got to kind of learn from a few other people, which was really nice. But in the end, I decided that for the next book in the series, I really wanted to go my own way and do it myself. So I did. I did the cover for that one myself. I did the layout myself. Um, and I just wanted to learn everything and do it myself, which is very silly.
It's very
um,
ambitious.
it's extremely ambitious and very silly because, like, it's not, it's definitely not something that every person can or should try to do for their own work. Like, you should definitely be reaching out to others to do your cover art for you or do your layout for you if you're not skilled in it. And like, if you want to learn it, that's cool, but you should really like learn it. So I definitely did not do a good job when it came to, the layout and the cover. It was very rudimentary at best. However, the story did get nominated for a main literary award, or became a finalist for the main literary awards that following year. So I felt really like bolstered and confident in my ability to continue self-publishing. And around 2018, 2019, I rebranded myself, and I decided that I was going to move into not just dark fiction, but more into horror fiction, um, and started looking at some different avenues for different stories. Um, changed Did some more research, I guess is the best way to say it, in making sure that the covers I was putting out were higher quality, that the layout I was doing was higher quality, and it's definitely made a difference. But I've been in the industry doing this for 13 years now, and sometimes that's the only way that you can learn,
Yeah,
is,
I agree.
hindsight, looking back at what you've done and being like, ugh, uh, and then just like pressing forward, learning from people is huge. Definitely recommend that. Um, but yeah, it's been a journey for sure. And I'm at a point where like I do really enjoy putting my own stuff out, but I would really like to pursue having my stuff published by others. That's kind of my next big step here.
I totally relate to, that the first book that you do on your own as a self-published author. And a lot of times it's got some mistakes.
Hmm.
Um, I remember the first book that I published too. I was just so excited, like, oh, here it is, and I can do it, and I don't have to wait on anybody. I
Yep.
don't I it's my timeline. And so I went ahead and did it, and it was terrible, and it was full of mistakes. And but I loved it so much, and I was so
Yeah.
proud of it. I was like, here
Yeah.
here it is, this thing that I have, worked on for years, and now like I'm holding it. And I think that there's so much to be said for self-published authors and the amount of work that goes into creating it, from
Yeah.
start to finish, because instead of having like a whole team of people like a publishing house would have, you're just like one person.
Yeah.
So that's but and also see, having that frame of reference, I think, to look back on when now you're so much farther along in your career, you have these new things coming out, you have new goals, and you can kind of look back at that and see where you started out from. And I think that's pretty cool too, having that frame of reference for your growth.
Yeah, it's I look back at some of the stuff that I did put out and I'm like, yeah, this was very special to me at the time and it did make a huge difference and this is how I, started, and if I hadn't done that, then I wouldn't be where I am. Um and then there's always that like that one story that you wrote and you put out and you love it to death and it did nothing. and
Yes, yes.
and like I that was probably my roughest point in my career was when I put out a book that I was super passionate about. I loved everything about it. Um and I was expecting, I don't really know what I expected, but I didn't have the marketing experience yet. And I was just kind of hoping that it was going to take off and it didn't at all,
Mm.
like not at all. And that was when I was like seriously considering, do I still keep doing this or do I stop and like take a break? And I did. I took a break for a couple of years. I didn't publish anything. But I can't not write. It just, it makes you feel good. It's what
Hmm.
drives you. And pretty soon I had another book that I was ready to do something with. And I took my time, I did the whole rebranding and I did the whole making sure that I was doing the right things again. And then that one got literary finalist uh, for main literary awards as well. So at
So
that
pretty
point,
good comeback then.
yeah, I did feel like I was actually on the right track again. So
So besides the vulnerability of putting our work out there and having people read it and digest it and give us their thoughts on it, how has your experience been as an author, um online and interacting with other people, and especially on social media? Like, do you feel like social media has done a lot to propel you forward and keep you going in your
I,
career?
I definitely would say it has, like, and it's changed over the years too, because when I was starting out, it was Facebook. That was
Yep.
that was where I met most of my friends and fellow writers. I joined the New England Horror Writers group, um, did a bunch of events with them. They were my people. It was the first time that I had found like a group of people that I really felt connected to. And I loved doing events with them. Just lots of like-minded individuals, and several of whom are in Maine too, which was nice because Maine is a big state and we're all very spread out. So being able to get together online was nice. And then it moved to Instagram. That was the next step. When I was doing the Wild Dark, that was kind of what I was focusing on was Instagram a lot of the time. And then it moved to Twitter, and Twitter has definitely been the most helpful platform that I have been on since joining the horror community as a whole. It's such a uplifting place. I know not everybody has that experience with Twitter, certainly. But I have had really, really, really good experiences through Twitter. So that's kind of like where my home is. And like every time something catastrophic happens with the current state of Twitter, I'm
Oh, I
like,
know,
good
I
God,
know.
no. Please don't let this be it. Like, I don't want to lose this. And I've joined Blue Sky and Threads and all those other ones, but it's like it's not the same. It's
Yeah.
just not the same. So
I I've heard about Blue Sky and Threads, and it was kind of funny because I didn't have any context for Threads, and so I saw memes about Threads, and I thought it was like clothing going threadbare.
yeah,
I was very confused.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I have to say the same for social media. I think is a really powerful tool to connect and bring people together, and to, put your name out there, because people aren't going to buy your book if they don't know who you are. If
yeah,
they don't know you exist, then um and I feel like social media is always a hot button topic. There, and
yeah,
people are very divided on how they feel about it. But personally, I'm of the opinion that, as with everything in life, there's good and bad. So you got to just figure out how much you're willing to absorb.
yeah,
Um, but
yeah. There's
yeah,
I think the thing that is really hard for some people to grasp is like social media opens you up to all kinds of wonderful things and horrible things at the same time. And if you are lucky enough to have a publisher behind you who has enough clout and money to market your book so that you don't feel like you have to have a social media presence, that's awesome. But that is not a reality for a lot of self-published or small press authors.
yeah,
They need that extra exposure. They need that, that extra step in order for people to really find them. And so that does mean there's more on the line. It's like
yeah,
you have to be there, and you have to kind of deal with all of the extra facets that social media brings.
yeah,
So and some people have it a lot worse,
yes,
you know. And that's hard. That's extremely hard. So yeah, I understand why it's such a tough
yeah.
topic.
It is. It definitely is. Um, I feel very fortunate that my time on social media has had its ups and downs, but it's brought me so many interesting people that I would never have ever known otherwise. And I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, it's so weird to think that Like I wouldn't know any of these people that
Hmm.
live, in completely different places than me. And we just happened to meet on social media.
Yeah.
It just happened to. And now we're friends and we talk regularly or we share our work. And it's crazy to think about. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but I think that, bringing people together, social media, writing, it just kind of goes hand in hand, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They belong together. So, so grief horror, getting
Hmm.
back to what you write about, is this a genre that you've always written from the I can't talk. Is this a genre
Okay.
that you've always written about, or do you have other things that you enjoy writing, or is this
So
your bread and butter?
it's it is I would call it my bread and butter. And like I don't think I really realized that that was what I liked to write about until very recently. Like, but going back and looking through a lot of my older stuff, I see that pattern. I just like, I don't know what it is, but I really like the idea of giving people those emotions, making people feel that way. Um, I don't like feeling that way. Like, just as a, something to throw out there, I don't like it when I personally feel that way. I do like it when a show or a movie or a game makes me feel that way,
Mhm.
uh, because there is a level of like, this isn't real, um, there. So there is definitely a break for me. Like, as long as I know that it's not real, but I can sort of make it seem real, then I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, I have been doing this exercise, and I need to put another post up soon on my Substack where I'm going back and I'm looking at media from my childhood that may have like spurred on some of these dark or grief centric like
Oh, I love that.
feelings, because
Yeah.
I just really want to examine it. I want to know where it came from, because I
That's
don't
really
know.
interesting.
It's
Yeah.
and so I did a post about uh Hook, the film,
Oh, yeah.
and there's a lot in that that is very like pretty deep, um and that I hadn't realized, as a kid watching it. But now I'm going back and going through all these different things, and I'm pulling out stuff, and so I think it's just kind of always been there,
Yeah.
and just I latched onto it at some point, and
It's
that's
it's funny how those things linger, isn't it? And the
yeah,
things that impact us in childhood that just stay with us forever.
yeah,
And I think as creatives too, it's like I think it's things that maybe other people may not have picked up on, or things that just
sure,
hit us a little bit differently.
yeah.
So that's really interesting. Everybody go sign up for her Substack so you can stay up to date. um, so so in your journey and you have all this new stuff going on, what is something what's something you really enjoy that you didn't think that you would?
uh Honestly, I think it is the social aspect, um of the whole writing a book, being a part of the community, because as a person, I am a very like alone. I am a loner, definitely. And I've always felt that way. I have never been a fan of large groups of people. I've never been a fan of just like putting myself out there,
Mhm.
being uh, kind of at the center of things, or in the spotlight at all. I just like I liked to write my stuff, and put it out there and then move on to the next thing. And then with this, knowing that people are reading it, knowing that it is in some cases giving people closure or giving people something to read that they're resonating with has been really eye-opening. And I think that was the thing I was most surprised by, because you go to write your book and you're doing it not necessarily for other people, you're doing it for you. You're doing it
Right.
to come
Yeah.
to terms with things that are going on, things that you're feeling. And then when somebody else says, "Oh yeah, I totally felt what you were writing here, and it really is, helped me." It's just sort of surreal.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think that's what I would say.
Yeah, I like to call those my why moments,
Yeah.
especially when I'm feeling the imposter syndrome or I'm just really struggling with getting something done or being where I need to be. Um, I think that's one of the reasons why I love like in-person events so much, like when I go to book events and stuff like that and being able to talk to the readers directly. And I love when they take home the book and then they message me and they'll be like, "Hey, I'm reading it and this is where I am and this is what I think about this part." And
Mhm.
I don't know, there's something just really, really special about that.
Yeah.
I think so many of us write from places of our own grief or our own trauma or just trying to make sense of this world that we live in.
Yeah.
And it can be so isolating. And you think, oh, no one thinks the way that I think, right?
Yeah.
I tell myself that all the time. I'm like, no. But then we write it, we create it, we put it out there, and then people are like, wow, I feel really validated right now. And you're like, wow, me too. you
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
I think that there's just I think it's something that I just really admire about the writing community and especially the horror community because the horror authors tend to write about like really really dark and dangerous and terrible things, but
Mhm.
they're some of the nicest people I've ever had the pleasure of
Yes.
knowing. They're
Yep.
so kind and so thoughtful and so
Mhm.
considerate and there's so much depth to what they're writing. And I just admire that
Agree.
so much. There's layers to what they're doing.
Yeah. And so welcoming. Like everybody is included, everybody is supported. It's just such a beautiful community. And I really wish that it was like that I had it in person, like near me, that I had some of those people that I could see like on a regular basis. um it's that's the one thing that kills me about being where I am, is just not being able to interact with friends in this community in person more often.
I always thought I was like very introverted. I was never had a lot of friends, never knew like a lot of people and then I got older and I said, "Oh, I'm a high functioning introvert
Mhm.
because I do enjoy being around the people who bring me joy." Which
Yeah.
is usually the people in the writing community,
Yeah.
and the authors that I've worked with and the friends that I've made, it's just been um a huge like motivation to like keep going and to because I have that community to be involved with and a part of with everybody. So I think that that is just something that's really really special. And I think
Yeah.
that grief horror is such a beautiful genre. I feel like that would I feel like that would bring a lot of closure to people and like validation, some kind of like there's a word I'm looking for. It's not coming to me. But
That's okay. Like, no, I get what you mean though.
Yeah. Um, so your release is coming up August 3rd, which is
Mhm.
super exciting. So what are your plans after this book releases? So you mentioned kind of like wanting to get involved with a press possibly. So
Yeah.
what does that look like for you transitioning from doing all of your own things to partnering with a press that would help you do all those things?
So I think my biggest problem is that because of how much time and energy this book has taken, it has really kept me from working on other things. Like when I'm not writing, I am in full marketing mode, or I'm in full layout mode, or like editing mode. And um, so pretty much all of my spare time for the last 3 months has been marketing. Um, and that's what it takes. Like, in order to push your own stuff, it means just absolutely going crazy,
Right.
and being on social media all the time and putting out stuff all the time. And so I really haven't had much of a chance to work on anything new. Um, I do have a novella that will be coming out in October that is also part of this universe, that is a sequel to Hallowed Oblivion, which was one that I put out last year. Um, and that's kind of like my last release of the year. Um, there is also an audiobook for Hallowed Oblivion that's going to be coming out. Um, Date is not really confirmed on that, but that is in the works right now. And there's probably going to be a sequel to my Dan and Andy's Karaoke Holiday, which is my weird horror comedy thing that I wrote last year. That's probably going to come out next year. From there, I have a novel that I've been working on for a really long time that is kind of on the back burner right now because it is complicated, to
I
say the
love
least.
complicated.
Um, there is a lot of, like, I started writing it several years ago, and it has morphed and changed a lot. And it's going to probably take me a while longer before that is anywhere close to being ready, to do anything with. And then I did have a notion to write a short story collection. Um, that has been like simmering, uh, on like one of the back burners for a little while. So that might be where I put my efforts next. Uh, and I have also had people asking about another Wild Oblivion book. So
You can't disappoint the people.
it's, yeah, I mean, there's thoughts there, and that's all I'm gonna say. There's thoughts there. So
Well, that is exciting. I I'm, I'm excited to see all of your work come out this year and then your audiobook. That's awesome. Audiobooks are
yeah.
so cool.
So The Wild Dark got an audiobook this year. It released at the end of June, and that was like, I am just going to say I had the most amazing narrator. Like, she was so cool. I got so lucky. Lisa Remain is her name. She is one of the most wonderful, talented narrators, and she recorded this 14-hour behemoth of an audiobook with all of the different voices and everything. And it's so awesome.
That is so cool.
It's the closest thing I'll ever have to like a film version of my book. Um, and she just like killed it. She knocked it out of the park. It's so good. So if anybody hasn't read The Wild Dark, I do urge you to get the audiobook version because it's so good.
That's awesome. Audiobooks are so nice. You can just listen to them, if you have other stuff going on. And I know a lot of my friends, they struggle with having time to like sit down and read a physical book, but an audiobook, easy. You can fit that in and have it playing in the background. And I love theatrical ones. I love ones where people do the voices and it's like a whole thing. So that's really cool. Do you have the same narrator for your upcoming one?
No, there's different characters who are the main characters in Hallowed Oblivion, so I went with a different narrator for this project, and he's been I did there was an email from him that I haven't had a chance to look at yet, but he's at least done a few chapters in the novella so far, and I just really like his style. It's very different from The Wild Dark, but it should be a really good, compelling, much shorter audiobook. And then, spoiler, not spoiler, I have already talked to Lisa about doing Wildfall. So hopefully that will be
Ooh,
the next thing that we work on together um, later on. So,
that's awesome. All this cool stuff you have going on and your releases and your audiobooks. That is really cool.
it's a lot.
Um, it's a lot. Yeah. So how do you like balance everything? Getting
uh,
stuff done and meeting your timelines and, you know,
Short answer,
living.
I don't. Yeah, it's a lot. I think I am really good at piling it on and then like instantly regretting how much I've piled on.
I resonate with that. I use Trello a lot. Have you ever used Trello?
What's
Oh,
that?
oh gosh. So one of my friends used it and he told me about it and it changed my life. Trello is and it's free to use. It's you can build boards for different projects and then inside each board make a list of everything that is currently being done, what needs to be done, what has already been done,
Huh.
and you can share it with other people. So if you're
Okay.
working on a project with somebody that you can just add them to it and then everything's in one place.
Okay.
And I am obsessed with it. I have so many boards. I have a take over the world board as well,
Nice.
because as one must have.
Yep.
And, oh, but I highly recommend it because it helps keep me like very organized and nothing has ever worked to keep me organized before in my life.
Is it an app or is it a
It is an app and a website, so you can download it
okay.
on your phone and then you can also just use it on your computer. This is not sponsored by Trello, by the way, but we would love to be. um, no, but it's amazing. I highly recommend it. And
Cool.
it's free, so it's like that's even better.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to look into it.
So yes, I definitely get that. Piling things on and you're just like, oh no, it's no problem. I can totally do this. And then it happens and you're like, huh, I
Yep.
guess I am just human after all.
Yep.
What is one thing? So if you could go like back to the very beginning of your journey, what's one thing that you would tell yourself or a piece of advice you would give yourself that you know now that you would not have known at the beginning?
Mm, I think it's to just get more comfortable with being yourself and putting yourself out there. Um, just as I've progressed in my career and just as a person, I've learned to really be more comfortable with myself and be more comfortable with the idea of showing my work, and very different from, high school, where I was perpetually afraid of everything and everyone. And so, and I think that's also what kind of kept me from really going anywhere early in my career, was just this being afraid to really, you know, contact people or make friends with people, or um, think that my stuff was worthy of attention. um, and um, and then also be serious about it too,
Right.
like, I think one of the hardest things still is when people ask you about what you're working on or what you're writing about, giving them a very serious answer, or being able to, put it into a concise sentence. Um, and I wrote a vampire series. That was my first series, which is not even finished. More on that later. And people would ask, well, what's it about? And I'm just like, I got nothing. Like, it's so all over the place that I can't even tell you what it's about. And to this day, I'm not sure I can still like give a good blurb about what that book is about, what those books are about, because it's just like, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, i I think, yeah, it's like, be confident in yourself, be confident in your work, and also just like spend the time making sure you can actually market it.
Yeah. That's a whole full-time job.
Yeah.
Everything is a full-time job, and none of it pays well.
No, no, it does not.
I think that feeling comfortable with yourself online, and just letting yourself be who you are. I think that's a really powerful thing to put out there, because I feel like that's very hard to do on social media. Like, even though we have this barrier between us and other people, it's still like I mean, I still find it intimidating to talk, with
Mm.
people and connect. Oh, people are going to think I'm weird, or they're going to misunderstand what it is that I'm trying to say or do and stuff like that. But um I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about branding, and someone had asked me a question about branding, and I said branding is it should be based on whatever it is that makes you feel powerful.
Mm.
Whatever makes you feel strong and significant and boosts your ego, that's what you should build your brand around, because you'll feel comfortable in that. And I think that, you know finding yourself and putting it all out there for people to digest and take in makes you so much more relatable at the end of the day. People like on authenticity, I think, more than
Yeah,
anything else.
I agree. And I think the other thing to really keep in mind is, like, as people, we're always evolving, and we're always re-examining ourselves, and we're always changing our own outlooks on ourselves. And like like by far, there is so much about myself I don't know, and I'm still learning about.
Yeah.
And it's why I do these things, like with the Substack, trying to examine parts of my past to try and like figure out why I am the way I am. But also, like, I I know for a fact that I don't know myself fully. So I think it's important to also recognize that, like, if you know who you are at the moment,
Yeah.
you don't know who you're going to be down the road.
This is very true.
And there's always room to change, and there's always room uh, to learn and grow. So,
I love that. I like that. That's very positive. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Uh Definitely present day Raven is very different than even just like 3 years ago Raven. Yeah.
yep,
I think having that flexibility and that allowing yourself to grow and change, it is one of the best gifts you could probably give yourself, really.
yep,
And allowing yourself to become, and I think too, when we say we don't know ourselves yet, I really like that a lot. And I think that um so I believe that you meet everybody you meet for some kind of reason, right? Everybody has some kind of purpose in your life. And so I think sometimes too, like, we won't know ourselves until we meet those people either.
sure, yeah,
So yeah, having that vulnerability and meeting other people and allowing them into our little bubbles, our little circles, it just explodes into this great big huge thing. And then here we are on
yeah,
a podcast talking about being writers and putting our
yeah,
books out there and stuff. And it's just so cool. It's just so awesome. Um, that's so thank you so much for being on my podcast.
yeah.
I really enjoyed talking with you.
Well,
And
thanks for asking me. I was
yeah, learning
excited.
about your journeys. Hopefully, down the road after your releases come out, maybe we can reconvene. You can come back and tell us about your new projects.
Sure, I would like that. That would be a lot of fun.
So, where can all of our listeners and readers best connect with you? I think that you said it was Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter is the one of the ones that I spend the most time on. Though I am on Facebook and Instagram are kind of my next two sites that you can find me on the most. Then there's all the other random ones that I'm on too. Like I am on TikTok, I am on Threads, I am on Blue Sky. I do have a Substack. Those are all other ways that you can find me or learn about my stuff. And I have a website too,
The website.
because I'm crazy, and that is katherinesilvaauthor.com. So
And where can readers find your books? Are they all on Amazon and Kindle?
they're all on Amazon and Kindle. They're on Barnes and Noble. Not everything is available on Barnes and Noble and the expanded distribution. I think my first book is not available for expanded distribution if you want to go down that dark hole.
Oh
Um,
boy.
but all the new stuff, everything in the Wild Oblivion series is certainly available. So everywhere. So
That's great. Well, everybody go check it out, buy all of the books, and be sure to leave reviews because reviews are our bread and butter. And if you leave reviews, then more people will buy our book.
yes. And if I will also say, if you're not feeling like leaving a review, if that's not, what you want to do, that's totally fine too. Um, there's no pressure. We do like it a lot.
Yeah.
It makes us very happy, but there is no pressure to. So
Yeah, we appreciate you just reading them to begin with.
yes.
Well, thank you so much for being on this episode of Nights with Ebon Pinion. And I'll have your stuff in the descriptor so people can find you. And I'll put links to your books and to your website underneath the YouTube video.
Awesome.
And but yeah, this has been a really good time. I was really looking forward to it. I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, remember, we may be different species, but we're all part of the same family. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and we'll see you again soon.